Don't be mistaken, this is a type of torture. When an administration is seeking to compel a certain type of behavior from an individual by inflicting serious mental or physical anguish, that constitutes torture under both US law and international law. When I've interviewed victims of torture in war zones, the difference is that the torture occurred. It had happened and it had ended. In this case, it's continuing. We interviewed in our recent border mission about 15 family members who had been separated from their children. The levels of anguish that they were showing were off the charts. I have interviewed victims of torture all over the world. The level of anguish in these cases was at least that high. The US has adopted and agreed to be bound by certain standards that all countries are supposed to uphold internationally. And what's happening now is not only an abandonment of that moral leadership by the United States, but also a gross violation of US legal protections that implement those obligations. The US has become a little bit of a pariah on the world stage right now for this conduct, and we're hearing constant refrains from all over the world that this must stop. One of the pieces of misinformation you're hearing constantly thrown out there is that there's doubt about the identity of these people, that these aren't parents, they're smuggling their own children, which is not only outrageous on its surface, but it also defies the facts of the situation.
There is no law that says that this White House can separate parents from their children.
The kids are being used by pawns, by the smugglers and the traffickers.
What you hear from this administration is an effort to tarnish these people who are obeying US law, who are exercising their right to seek asylum from persecution or targeted violence in their countries of origin, where their countries are either unable or unwilling to protect them. And what we hear from this administration is they try to brandish them as criminals. These are not criminals. They're trying to conflate criminality with exercising your right to seek and enjoy asylum in another country.
We do have a policy of prosecuting adults who flout our laws to come here illegally instead of waiting their turn or claiming asylum at any of their ports of entry.
We're seeing again and again that people had the birth certificates of the children, they had their own identification, they had concrete evidence of their family relation, but they were never being asked for it. They were never being asked to prove their family relationship to this child. They were only having the kids taken out of their arms, screaming in some cases, and being forcibly separated without any justification either by the facts or under the law. And the reason that Amnesty International says this constitutes torture under US and international law is not just that it's outrageous and inflicts a lot of mental harm and in some cases physical harm, but it's also because this is not a lawful practice. This is being done under the color of law, not under the law. It's a perverted attempt to pretend that there's a legal process happening here, when in fact the rule of law is being abandoned by this practice. It has to end now, and these families must be reunited.